So chapter 16 is going to be all about, first of all, immigration policies and how Australia is using their immigration policies at the moment, and then environmental policies and how that can impact each of the goals as well. So this first video is just going to be a bit of an introduction to immigration policy. So immigration policy is an essential part of the federal government strategy, and it's one of the key policies used to try and boost the supply side of the economy and allow for sustainable economic growth going forward. So I just want to start off with a 6-mark question on a previous exam, just to show you how to sort of utilise immigration policy along with a range of budgetary supplies policy measures. So discuss how these policies, so budgetary policy and immigration policy, might be combined in the policy mix to influence aggregate supply in order to improve Australia's long-term economic prosperity and living standards. So within that question, you need to be able to talk about a range of budgetary supply policies as well as immigration policy and how they work together to try and improve aggregate supply conditions in Australia and allow for long-term economic prosperity and living standards. So just having a look at how to go about answering this question. So in terms of problems with the answers, some of the main problems were a number of students only discussed one policy, so from budgetary policy or immigration policy, rather than focusing on how they work together. Many answers failed to explain the link between aggregate supply and achieving long-term capacity to grow. So being able to produce more and use more resources more efficiently. So it's really key that you're able to explain the long-term impacts of some of these policies and how they allow for more long-term sustainable growth. So here's a suggested solution to this answer. And it's not just one way about going about it, but just want to show you the way this person utilises the supply-side policies in line with an immigration policy. So all government pursue economic growth as its primary means by which nations can improve their living standards over time and achieve long-term economic prosperity. On the supply side, economic growth is determined by factors that influence the willingness and ability to produce. So again, explaining what supply-side policies do. One factor that influences the willingness and ability of businesses to produce goods and services may relate to access to sufficient numbers of skilled workers or the quantity and quality of the labour force. Various budgetary policies and immigration policies in the policy mix can play an important role in influencing the willingness and ability of businesses to produce. For example, ensuring there's a sufficient pool of labour so that we can produce at the right levels. One way to increase the availability of labour might be to use budgetary policies. For example, high rates of labour force participation will reduce real unit labour costs over time. So in order to achieve that, we can use budgetary policies like childcare rebates for stay-at-home parents to get them back into the workforce, increasing the age for those who are able to access the pension to encourage people to stay in the workforce, cutting welfare to single benefit parents once their children reach a certain age to try and keep them in the workforce. This encourages those parents back into the workforce. Budgetary policy can also target the quality of the labour force by implementing policies such as education and training to assist in the skills of workforce. So addressing this question of how we can boost aggregate supply within the budget to become more efficient, we've got a whole range of policies that boost participation, which including childcare rebates, raising the pension age, cutting welfare benefits, as well as policies targeting the quality of the labour force, like education and training. So this is a bit of an older question, but if you got this question now, you could talk about the youth employment strategy there as a supply-side policy, trying to get people into the workforce. You can target policies from this year's budget, but you can also speak more generally about how the government can increase participation and reduce capacity constraints in the workforce. So important to talk about a range of different policies like this person has. Immigration policy refers to changes made to the terms and conditions that need to be met by foreign citizens who wish to enter, live and work in Australia. Immigration policies can be implemented to increase the size of the labour force by, for example, targeting an increase in migrants of working age, or increasing the skill of the labour force by increasing the number of workers entering via the skilled migration program. So she hasn't linked that back to how that boosts supply, but she's explained how immigration can be used to try and boost both the quality and quantity of the labour force. So again, trying to use these buzzwords of the quality and quantity of the labour force, improving businesses' willingness and ability to supply, then using a range of supply-side policies that help to achieve that. So basically, immigration occurs when people settle in a country where they are not a native, so they swap countries basically. It generally started after World War II, and it will generally be higher when Australia faces big labour shortages. Because when we face labour shortages, we need more supply of labour. That's when we're experiencing capacity constraints. One of the main reasons why we migrated so much after World War II is because we had a fear of national security, and we wanted to develop a stronger defence couple of buzzwords. Whenever you hear the word migration, it's just any person who changes his or her country of usual residence. Net overseas migration is immigration minus emigration. Immigration is citizens in foreign countries settling in Australia, and emigration is Australians who come abroad. So if you see that term net overseas migration, it's a number, it's not a ratio or anything like that. It's just immigration, people coming here, minus to go to other countries. Australia has 3 subsections of its migration program. We have what we call a skilled streams program, or skilled stream migrants that make up 2/3 of the program. And then we have family migration, which is based on relationships with other people, so when the partners or fiancés or kids of previous migrants come over. And we also have humanitarian migration, which is people fleeing from persecution and refugees and things like that. As I said, this is the main one, and this has continued to increase. It used to only be 50%, but our migration program is targeting more and more skilled migrants going forward. Within the skilled migration stream, so within that first stream, there was 4 different categories. There's what we call general skilled migration, which is basically people that aren't necessarily coming over here to work for an employer, or an employer's not sponsoring them, but they're used to fill just general skill vacancies in the economy or labour market shortages. People are selected a certain amount of points based on their skills and qualifications, and if they have a higher amount of points, they're more likely to be able to come to Australia. And those points are based on age and their English skills and their experience in their certain fields. There's employer-nominated schemes where basically employers nominate people to come and work for them and often fund them to come over here. That's around 60%. Business skills migration program is all about trying to get people over here that have shown to run successful businesses and entrepreneurs and things like that. So that they've shown they've had clear opportunities, or so they've had clear skills in that area, and we're targeting them to come to Australia. That's around 6%. And then there's a thing called distinguished talent, which is people that have had unique talents in certain areas. That might be sport or music, and that's less than 1% of our migration.